Discovered, Millionaire spots his ex-fiancée with 3 amazing boys who look just like him. Jack stood at the bustling charity event, a riot of laughter and clinking glasses around him. As a self-made millionaire, he had everything: a thriving tech company, a beautiful home, financial stability. Yet, deep down, each corner of Denver echoed memories of his modest upbringing in a struggling single-parent household. His chest tightened as he surveyed the crowd, an instant longing swelling within him. And then, he saw her, Sarah. His college sweetheart. The former love of his life, now at the center of a whirlwind, surrounded by 3 energetic boys, each a lively testament to Jack's past. They looked just like him: dark hair, sparkly eyes, and laughter that rang like music. Time froze around them as he recalled the dreams they once shared. Guilt washed over him as he witnessed the unrelenting strength Sarah exuded as she juggled their vibrant demands. She was a single mother now, carrying burdens he had turned his back on while climbing the ladder of success. The soft summer breeze rustled through the trees, a painful contrast to the rugged storm of emotions within Jack. With each echo of her laughter, he felt a tug on his heart. He approached, hesitant and nervous. "Hey, Sarah," he managed, words unusually heavy on his tongue. Her smile faded, replaced by wariness. She moved on, and he was merely a ghost from her past. "Jack," she replied, her voice soft but laced with something sharp, something real. The boys, intrigued, peeked up at him, their bright eyes full of curiosity. They were unaware of the silent history between their mother and this man standing before them. Before they could dive deeper, they were interrupted by familiar voices. Friends from Jack's circle clustered around him, some raising their eyebrows. "What are you doing here, Jack?" one asked, voice low and cautious. "You're not planning to play hero, are you?" Jack's heart sunk. Could their skepticism be right? Was this some misguided quest for redemption? The laughter of the children danced through the air, contrasting sharply with the tension in his chest. "I just want to help," he replied curtly, turning back toward Sarah. Her expression softened momentarily, and they began to share stories: her daily struggles of juggling 2 jobs, their boys, and the crushing weight of solitude. Jack felt the weight of her sacrifices creep over him, realization dawning. Was his success worth it if it meant leaving her behind? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Every laughter shared, every moment spent with the boys chipped away at his resolve. He felt their energy, their smiles, and, deeply, he wondered if he could step into their lives, all while battling doubt and fear of rejection. Sarah's boys were curious. They pulled him into games and laughter, and for the first time, he felt that familiar warmth he had long missed. But what was he really after? Could he bridge the gap, heal the wounds of their past? Jack stood at a precipice, heart racing and breath shallow. The risk of love loomed ahead, dangerous and exhilarating. Would he have the courage to leap into the unknown, to embrace the second chance life was offering? The air around them grew thick with unspoken words, each moment drawing them closer together while reminding him of the distance he might never close. The question lingered: could he find home again in the hands of the woman he once loved? Jack took a deep breath. The warmth of the gathering around him felt both inviting and suffocating. The laughter of the boys rose and fell like waves crashing against each other, their joy infectious, but it was Sarah's cautious gaze that anchored him. He wanted to reach out, to reclaim what they had lost, but every step felt like a leap into the unknown. "Jack, Sarah started, sparking an unsteady flicker of hope in him, but she hesitated. The air felt heavy, charged with unspoken regrets. To her, he could be the man who abandoned her during their toughest moments, a ghost of ambition. "I really want to help," Jack repeated, the sincerity in his voice surprising even himself. "I can't change the past, but I can be here now if you'll let me. For a moment, Jack thought he saw a hint of longing in her eyes, like a door creaking open. But then it closed again, locked behind the weight of history. Is that really what you want? Sarah's voice was low, and for the first time, the boys noticed the tension coiling between them. Do you have any idea what being here truly means? Jack struggled to find the words. There was a world of difference between wanting to help and actually stepping into their chaotic life. The terror of failing her once more clawed at him. I do, at least I think I do. I've spent so long chasing this idea of success, and I let go of what mattered most. The boys, now fully invested, nudged each other, whispering, who is he? And is he staying? Their innocent curiosity hung in the air, lightening the moment but deepening Jack's resolve. He couldn't disappoint them or Sarah again. I know I can't just walk back into your lives and pretend everything is easy, Jack acknowledged, his tone sincere. But I want to know my sons. I want to be part of their world. The term sons hit him harder than expected, a jolt of both pride and fear. For a fleeting second, Sarah softened, her defenses waning. You have no idea what it's been like, Jack. I can't pull my boys into a game of what if I don't want what ifs, Jack interrupted, his voice sharper than intended. I want to try. I want them to have a father. If you'll let me. She studied him closely. He could almost hear the wheels turning in her mind, the memories flashing, clumsy first dates, stolen kisses, and finally, the bitter break that left them both shattered. And what if it doesn't work? She finally asked, her voice a mix of vulnerability and strength. What if I can't trust you again? Then I'll prove that I can be trusted, Jack replied, desperation mingling with determination. I'll show you that I've changed. The boys pulled at her dress, eager for reassurance, their innocent faces waiting with wide eyes. Jack's heart swelled. He wanted to reach out and complete this puzzle he never knew was missing its pieces. As if sensing the shift, the evening sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. A rich, warm light enveloped them, as if the universe was offering up a little hope of what might be. But just as Sarah began to open her mouth to respond, one of the boys pointed at the chaotic entrance to the yard. Look! Dad's home. Jack's heart sank. He looked past Sarah to the figure striding confidently toward them, a man who exuded ease and charm, eyes filled with a knowing confidence. The laughter of the boys burst forth again as they flew into the arms of this stranger. Time halted. Sarah's expression instantly changed, a mix of surprise and something softer. He is here, she whispered, her determination visibly wavering. Jack stood frozen, the shadows creeping back in, swallowing the fragile warmth they had just begun to build. Who was this man? And what did it mean for the life he hoped to forge with Sarah and the boys? He felt the pressure crash down around him like a wave. This was not the way he envisioned coming back into their lives. Could there truly be a place for him now that the past had surfaced again? The air felt thick with tension, a new reality setting in as Jack braced himself for the fight ahead. Would he relinquish the dream he barely dared to hold on to, or was it possible that he could win Sarah back once more? Jack's thoughts spun as he took in the scene before him. The stranger, this newcomer, gathered the boys in his arms, lifting them high in the air, their laughter ringing out like music, pure and joyful. It was the kind of joy that made Jack's heart ache, a reminder of the moments he had lost and the ones he desperately wanted to reclaim. He felt a knot form in his stomach as he watched Sarah's eyes soften with affection. Was she reliving memories with this man that they once shared? Suddenly, the warmth that moments ago filled the yard turned icy. Jack! Sarah called, her voice a mixture of surprise and anxiety. She stepped forward, the boys still clinging to the man who had intruded into their fragile moment. This is Ethan. He has been helping us since you were gone. Ethan grinned, his confident demeanor a stark contrast to Jack's uncertainty. Hey there, Jack. Nice to finally meet you. There was something casual about Ethan, as if they were friends instead of rivals vying for a place in Sarah's heart. Jack forced a polite nod but felt rage simmer beneath the surface. "Nice to meet you too," Jack managed, but the words felt inadequate. They hung in the air, heavy with an unsaid challenge. After all, his heart was the one that had suffered most in their absence. "Ethan was just taking the boys out for ice cream," Sarah added, glancing back at her boys, who were still attached to Ethan like little koalas. "They had a great time." She turned to Ethan with a lightness in her voice, which only amplified Jack's discomfort. "Sounds fun," Jack replied, forcing a smile that felt more like a grimace. He had missed out on moments like that, the little things that defined fatherhood. Watching another man savor those same moments while he stood on the sidelines felt unbearable. Ethan's eyes darted between Sarah and Jack. "Well, we should let you catch up. I'll be around if you need anything, Sarah." The way he said her name sent a sharp pang through Jack. "No, wait," Jack said, searching for a lifeline in the chaos. "I mean, I just got here. I want to be involved. I want to be part of their lives." The boys turned towards him, a mix of confusion and curiosity in their eyes. Jack's heart raced, yearning for a connection, a way to pull them back to him. "Maybe I could take them out this weekend. We could go to the park, have some fun, just like you did." But Sarah shook her head, her expression a painful mix of sympathy and regret. "Jack, it's not that simple. The boys need stability. I can't just." "Stability?" Jack interrupted, louder than intended. "They need a father. They don't need an alternate version of me in their lives." The air crackled with his words, filling the space with tension. The boys looked from their mother to Jack, their little brows furrowing. "I'm here now," he added, desperation lining his voice. "Ethan is a good father to them, Jack. They love him." Sarah's voice wavered but held firm. "You can't just." A silence fell over the yard. The laughter had faded, replaced by an uncomfortable hush. Jack swallowed hard, fighting the bitter sting of jealousy and sorrow mixed together. "I'm not asking you to choose," he said, voice steady, though his heart cracked. "I just want to be in their lives." Ethan stepped forward, his expression shifting. "Listen, Jack. If you really want to be here for them, then you need to show it. Actions speak louder than words." Jack clenched his fists, anger and loss swirling. "I can show you. I will show you." A glimmer of hope flickered, but it was tangled with fear and competition. A part of him wanted to run, to escape this moment, but another part pushed him forward, determined to stand his ground. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting elongated shadows, Jack knew he had to step into this battle. There was no escaping it. But the question loomed heavy: could a broken man rebuild a family, or would the weight of the past bury him beneath its rubble? He looked toward Sarah, who stood there, caught between the two worlds: his desperate hope and Ethan's comfortable reality. Was there room for him in this new family, or would he remain an echo of the man he once was? Jack could feel his heart pounding against his ribcage. The weight of the moment crushed down on him, making it hard to breathe. He couldn't stop thinking about the laughter, the joy he had just lost for so long, now echoing in someone else's presence. Just like that, Ethan was the hero, the good father standing in the sunlight while he felt like a shadow. "Maybe I could take them out this weekend." The words slipped out of his mouth before his mind could catch up. But the plea felt empty, as if he was drawing on a well that had run dry. "It's not that simple, Jack." Sarah's eyes were filled with sorrow, a mixture of sympathy and something that hinted at turmoil. "They need stability. I can't just uproot everything." The boys shifted uncomfortably. The little ones, unaware of the depth of the situation, just wanted a father, any father who would play with them, bring them joy, maybe help them climb trees or chase fireflies at dusk. Jack's throat tightened. He felt like he was slipping away from them again, just like he had the first time. "I don't want to uproot anything. He had to find the right words, something that would bridge the chasm between him and the family he had yearned to reclaim. I want a chance, Sarah. Just a chance to show them I can be there. A spark of hope lit within him, flickering tentatively. But Ethan stood there, arms crossed, studying Jack with an uneasy smirk. Actions speak louder than words, right? Show them you mean what you say. Kids are smart, they know when it's just lip service. Jack shot a glance at Ethan, refusing to be intimidated. You don't get to lecture me on fatherhood. That's enough, Sarah interjected, her voice cutting through like glass. This isn't just about you, Jack. This is about the boys. They deserve to have someone who won't just flake out again. Her cheeks flushed a delicate shade of red, and Jack realized how trapped she felt, caught between two worlds, silence stretched, a thin thread of tension that held them all captive. Jack could feel his temper rise, but he fought it back. You think I wanted to go? You think I wanted to miss all those moments? His voice was tight, filled with pain, desperation spilling out of him. The boys, wide-eyed, exchanged glances. They were too young to understand the weight of conflict, but they weren't naive. They could feel the strain, the rising temperature of the conversation. Maybe, Ethan suggested, his tone turning more serious, you could try something simple at first. Start small. Show them you're committed. Jack nodded slowly. Like what? I don't know. Maybe take them to school. Help with their homework. Just be there when it matters, Ethan said, his voice softening. It was almost a challenge. Jack felt a flicker of resentment in his chest, but he also felt a glimmer of understanding. He had to prove himself not just to Sarah, not just to Ethan but to his boys. Getting back involved would mean work, dedication, perhaps even risking his heart again. As uncertainty mingled with resolve, he looked at his sons. Their trust had been taken from him once, but maybe, just maybe, he could earn it back. He stepped closer, knees bending slightly to meet their curious gazes. Hey, guys, the boys leaned in. Jack's heart swelled with a fierce longing. What do you like doing the most? I want to be part of that. I want to make new memories with you. Their eyes brightened, and a smile broke across their faces. Jack felt warmth rush through him, a glimpse of what could possibly be if he took the right steps, stepped into that role he had shunned for so long. Can we build the biggest fort ever? One of them exclaimed, his smile contagious. The idea filled Jack with strange joy. You bet. A fortress fit for kings. The laughter returned, albeit hesitantly, searching for footing in the air thick with tension, but it was a start. But as Jack looked toward Sarah, he saw the doubt lingering there. She loved her boys fiercely, and he knew she wanted the best for them. Would she truly believe in him again? What if he couldn't rise to the occasion? What if he became that echo, lost again in the shadows? As Jack stood there, a sense of purpose began to crystallize, the fight to reclaim his family pushing him forward. Would their small fort lead to a strong foundation? And if he stumbled, who would be there to catch him? Jack knelt on the grass, brushing his fingers through the cool blades as if he could weave together the threads of his past with the future he desperately wanted. The boys buzzed around him with excitement, their laughter bubbling up like fresh spring water. Each giggle felt like a thread, stitching up the fabric of a family torn apart. Let's use all the blankets from the couch. One of them suggested, his eyes gleaming with the thrill of adventure. Good idea. And we'll need pillows for the walls, the other chimed in, dashing toward the house as if it were a race. Jack couldn't help but chuckle. They were so enthusiastic, so innocent. He found himself smiling, really smiling for the first time in what felt like ages. It was like a flash of sunlight breaking through dark clouds. He could see their little hands tugging at the old sheets, trying to create their castle. It struck him hard, they were building something solid. Together. What do you want in the fort? A treasure chest? He asked, falling into their childlike energy. Yes. And a secret door. One boy shouted, and before Jack knew it, they were all brainstorming. "Okay, how about a lookout tower?" Jack suggested, his heart racing. The thought of being involved, really involved, felt intoxicating. "Yeah. And it can be where we keep the candy." They agreed, their giggles spilling into the air. Jack glanced at Sarah, who stood off to the side, arms folded, watching them intently. She wore a look of mixed emotions, amusement, skepticism, and just a hint of hope. He met her gaze, feeling the weight of all the history they shared. They had fought so hard to stay afloat, and now here he was, trying again. The sun dipped lower in the sky, casting long shadows, but Jack felt unburdened, buoyed by the boys' joyous chatter. He turned back to them. "All right, kings of the fort, we need to gather supplies. Let us go to the living room," they exclaimed enthusiastically, racing toward the door. "Wait!" Jack called out, heart pounding. He wanted this to count to really matter. "How about I help you carry everything?" "Okay. But you have to be the brave knight," one of them yelled, giggling, tugging at Jack's hand. "Brave knight?" Jack chuckled. Maybe that was just what he needed to be, a knight in his own story. He scooped them up, one on each hip, as they shrieked with joy. As they raced into the house, he felt an unexpected thrill. This was what it meant to be part of their lives. Whatever doubts lingered in Sarah's heart, Jack felt more determined than ever. Once inside, they began grabbing blankets, pillows, and random toys, tossing them together in a chaotic but joyful heap. Laughter echoed throughout the house, even as Jack caught glimpses of Sarah watching from the kitchen with a soft look. He wished he could reach her, reassure her that he was changing. This time, it would be different. Jack's laughter faded slightly as doubt gnawed at the edges of his joy. Did he really believe he could stick around? What if he failed again? He caught himself staring at her, wondering if she could see the flicker of fear behind his smile. "Hey, are you going to help or what?" one of the boys interrupted, tugging at him playfully. "Rolling up my sleeves, my little warriors," Jack exclaimed, shaking off the doubt. He joined the boys, diving into the pile of pillows with them, feeling the contagious joy lift him higher. Even if it was just a fort, it was something tangible, but in the back of his mind, he could still feel Sarah's lingering doubt. He wanted her to see him, to believe he'd changed. Would a fort be enough? And as they built their fortress, Jack's heart beat with hope that maybe, just maybe, the walls he constructed today could hold something more than just blankets. But deep down, he trembled at the thought of what would happen if it all came crashing down. What if this little castle was destined to crumble with time? In that moment, the joy around him felt like fragile glass. Could he withstand the storms to come? Would he be there for his boys when it mattered the most? And as Jack buried the worry beneath playful banter, he couldn't shake off the question that lurked at the edges of his thoughts: would Sarah ever trust him again? As the laughter cascaded around him, Jack lost himself in the moment. The fort began to take shape, a makeshift kingdom born from creativity and laughter. Pillows were stacked high, blankets draped in all sorts of peculiar angles, and the boys squealed as they climbed to their lookout tower. The world outside faded away. For a little while, it was just them knights on an adventure, ready to battle the dragons of boredom. "Hey, can we add flags?" one boy shouted, eyes wide with anticipation. Jack's heart swelled. Here they were, bringing life not just to the fort, but to the hope in him. "Absolutely. We can make them out of those sheets there." Jack pointed to some bright fabric. They dashed off, each boy clutching their prize with dreams of waving them high. Jack watched them, pride swelling in his chest. It was a beautiful sight, seeing them so free, so untainted by the world. Here was an opportunity. An opportunity not just to build a fort, but to build trust. He wanted to share this with Sarah, to pull her into their world. With each dismantled worry, he added another pillow, reinforcing the walls of both the fort and his resolve. In a rare moment, he wandered toward the kitchen where Sarah stood, her hands trembling slightly as she prepared snacks. The scent of popcorn filled the air, wrapping around Jack like an invisible thread. She glanced at him, her expression softening slightly, and for a fleeting second, he thought he saw a glimmer of the past in her eyes, a time when their laughter echoed in the hallways, resonating with dreams that felt unreal. "Do you want to help?" he asked, a hopeful smile creeping onto his face. It felt like an olive branch, a way to bring her back into their little world. Sarah hesitated, glancing at the ruckus coming from the living room. "I don't know, Jack. Come on. Just a little bit of popcorn for the brave knights." He motioned her over, and he could see the conflict in her gaze. Fear wrestled with something else, a curiosity, a glimmer of the connection they once had. Slowly, she stepped away from the countertop and walked toward him. "Okay, but I want to hear the battle strategies first." Jack felt his heart skip. This was the opening he had longed for. He wanted to share this moment, to remind her of who they could be. He guided her back to the chaos of fort building, and as he spoke, laughter hung in the air. "Honestly, popcorn might just turn the tide in our favor," he joked, tossing a handful of the fluffy treats toward the fort, where the boys went wild with excitement. As he shared the boys' imaginative battle plans, a pillow as a shield, a blanket as a cape, he felt his connection with Sarah grow. She laughed, her warm laugh wrapping around him like a familiar embrace, breaking down barriers he thought would never budge, but as the boys raced around, a shadow of doubt flickered through him once more. This moment felt precious but fragile. Would they only be memories? Would the laughter fade like countless others? "Jack," Sarah said softly, stealing a glance at him as the boys laid siege to a fortress made of their love and laughter. "Do you really think you can do it this time?" Her question hung in the air, stronger than any fortress they could build. His heart raced. Could he do it? Just then, a loud crash echoed from the fort, and the structure trembled. Jack turned, eyes wide. Oh no! The castle! Chaos erupted, laughter mixed with gasps, but as Jack rushed back to the boys, he felt something change within. He might not have all the answers, but he wanted to try. With Sarah watching, he could only hope that in that moment of potential disaster, he would learn to rebuild, to reassure her. As they all worked together to fix the fort, Jack dared to believe that maybe, just maybe, he could finally earn that trust again. But as he glanced back at Sarah, her eyes filled with uncertainty, he asked himself, could rebuilding a fort be just the beginning of mending their fractured family? Would the boys' laughter be enough to bridge the distance that had grown between him and Sarah? And as the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over their chaotic kingdom, each heartbeat reminded him that every moment counted. But deep down, he dreaded the answer to an unspoken question: what would happen when reality caught up with them again? As the last rays of sun dipped below the horizon, the shadows within the fort deepened, giving it a magical glow. Laughter rang out as the boys scrambled to put the fort back together, their tiny hands clutching pillows and blankets, determination written all over their faces. Jack stood back for a moment, letting himself breathe. Look! It's holding! One of the boys exclaimed, grinning as he threw a blanket over the top of the half-rebuilt structure. Jack couldn't help but smile back, his heart buoyed by the sight. The fort, with its crooked roof and disheveled walls, stood as a symbol of resilience, much like his hope to mend things with Sarah. Now we need a final touch, Jack said, eager to keep the momentum going. Where are those flags? Over here. Another boy screamed, tugging at the sheets that had become their treasures. As the boys scrambled to add their homemade flags to the fort, Jack's gaze drifted back to Sarah. She watched them from the doorway, her expression softening as she took in the scene. For a fleeting moment, it felt like the old days, the times when laughter mingled with dreams. He wanted to believe they could return to that. Sarah, he called softly, startling her from her thoughts. Join us? She hesitated, the shadows of uncertainty dancing in her eyes again. I don't want to mess things up. Come on. We're not just building a fort, we're building memories, he encouraged, surprising himself with the conviction in his voice. And you can help us make it even better. Slowly, she stepped into the room. The boys cheered, momentarily distracted from their tasks. Their excitement invigorated Sarah, just like Jack had hoped. If laughter could bridge the gaps, maybe it could work for them too. What's next? She asked, the corners of her mouth lifting ever so slightly. Jack pointed to the flags, his heart racing. Let us imagine the flags are our family crest. What would ours look like? Her brow furrowed thoughtfully, and Jack held his breath, waiting for a response. After a moment, Sarah chuckled, a sound that sent joy rushing through him. Maybe, a lion. It stands for courage. Courage it is. Jack replied, sensing the shift in the air. The word sparked something inside him. Could they be brave enough to face what had kept them apart? As they crafted, the boys chattered about their adventures, recounting tales of dragons and knights, their imaginations weaving worlds where anything was possible. Jack found himself laughing alongside Sarah, and for a brief second, he could almost forget the weight of reality, but then reality slipped back in like an unexpected shadow. Would this just be a momentary high? The thought lingered, tugging at him. He wanted this feeling to last, he wanted to hold on to it. Jack, Sarah said quietly, her tone suddenly serious, cutting through the joy. I need to talk to you about. Her voice trailed off, uncertainty creeping back into her eyes. His heart sank. She seemed so close yet miles away. About what? About the boys, and us. Before he could respond, one of the boys collided with him, laughing and spilling his snacks. Jack bent down to help the small one up, his heart tugged in two directions. Was now the right time for a serious talk, or did they need to let the fun, even for just a little longer? A fragile silence enveloped them, charged with unsaid words. Jack sensed this moment was pivotal. If they spoke now, there was no turning back. Jack, she urged again, stepping closer. I can't pretend anymore. But before she could finish, the doorbell rang. The sound shattered the moment, drawing every eye to the entrance. Jack's stomach twisted. In sudden disarray, the atmosphere changed. Who could that be? One of the boys whispered, the excitement of the chaotic situation now replaced with uncertainty. As Jack nodded towards the door, he felt a chill run down his spine. Could this interruption bring news that would change everything? Who was standing on the other side? And just like that, the fragile air of hope teetered on the edge. What would this unexpected visitor bring into their fragile fortress of dreams? Jack's heart raced as he approached the door, each step feeling heavier than the last. He took a deep breath, glancing back at Sarah, who stood frozen, anxiety flickering in her eyes. The laughter of the boys faded into a distant echo, and in that moment, it felt like everything hinged on what lay beyond the door. He reached for the knob, his hand trembling. What awaited him? Would it be a friendly face or an unwelcome surprise? Steeling himself, he opened the door with a creak that seemed to resonate through the whole room. Standing there was a man in a crisp suit, his hair perfectly styled and an air of confidence that practically oozed wealth. Jack's heart skipped a beat as he recognized him. It was David, a high school acquaintance now turned successful businessman. The surprise in David's eyes morphed into a wide smile as he caught sight of Jack. Jack! Long time no see. David exclaimed, his tone jovial. Yeah, you too, Jack managed, but his voice felt distant, caught in the whirlwind of uncertainty. Just behind David stood a woman, a soft smile on her face that faded as she observed the chaotic scene behind Jack. His heart sank. It was Clara, the kind teacher who once dabbled in matchmaking. If she was here, things could not get any more complicated. The boys, still buzzing with excitement, rushed to the door, crowding around Jack's legs. Who is it? They shouted, trying to peek past him. Just some old friends, Jack muttered, glancing back at Sarah. She was now staring at the ground, her fingers nervously fidgeting with the edges of her shirt. David chuckled, I see you've started a little family project here. These guys look just like you. The compliment felt like a knife. Jack felt exposed, standing at a crossroads. Was this what he had wanted? To show his life to his old friend, only for David to see the chasm that lay beneath the surface? "Yeah, my boys," Jack said, forcing a smile, though the words felt heavy on his tongue. He tried not to let the weight of the moment press down on him. "Mind if Clara and I join?" "We were just in the neighborhood and thought we'd drop by," David suggested, stepping inside, unabashed. Jack's pulse quickened. Sure," he replied hesitantly, looking at Sarah, who now wore a mask of uncertainty. Their moment of honesty had vanished, washed away by the arrival of these unexpected guests. As David and Clara encountered the boys, laughter erupted once again, breaking the heavy atmosphere, but Jack's heart clenched. He turned to Sarah, their eyes locking for a brief moment. They both knew the spotlight had shifted. She began, her voice low, just above a whisper. "Let us focus on the boys." Jack interjected, a sudden urgency in his tone. He needed to push aside the confusion, the swirling emotions. They could talk later. Maybe. Clara knelt beside a boy, her laughter light and warm, but it struck Jack sharply. Each sound felt like a reminder of what had been lost, a reminder of the laughter that once filled their home, now fragile in the face of reality, but in the middle of joy and chaos, uncertainty lingered. What was Sarah about to reveal? What were they about to face together? He couldn't shake the feeling that whatever was coming next might shift all their fragile foundations once again. "Jack," Sarah said softly, joining him as they watched the scene unfold. "We really need to talk, it can't wait." A storm brewed behind her words, and Jack felt it deep in his bones. That familiar weight settled back in his chest. Could this moment mean the end of their fragile peace? Would they truly confront what had kept them apart? And just as the fleeting laughter filled the room, Jack knew they were on the cusp of something monumental. Would he be brave enough to face it with Sarah? Before he could answer himself, another door creaked open down the hall, and a voice called out, deeper and commanding. "Jack! Are you here?" A chill swept over him. Who else was joining this tangled web of connections and emotions? Jack's heart raced again, the tension in the air crackling like static electricity. He turned slowly, the weight of anticipation heavy on his shoulders. The voice belonged to none other than Tom, an old friend from the past, one with a penchant for making dramatic entrances. Tom had a booming personality that matched his well-built frame. In high school, he had been the jock, always center stage, the life of the party. "Tom! What are you doing here?" Jack called out, straining to keep the disarray of emotions from spilling out. "Just thought I'd check in on you, man." Tom responded with a grin, stepping into the room. His eyes widened at the chaotic scene, David and Clara joking with the boys while Sarah remained stiff beside Jack. It felt like the world had collided in that moment. "Wow, you've got your hands full." Tom laughed, waving at the boys, who were clearly fascinated by the newcomer. Jack felt another layer of vulnerability peel away as Tom approached. More attention meant less chance to catch Sarah's eye, less chance to delve into the conversation that had become so essential to him. He caught a brief flicker of uncertainty in Sarah's gaze, as if she too could sense the building storm. "Just visiting," Clara interjected, smiling at Tom. "We didn't mean to intrude." Her tone was warm, yet there was a hint of nervousness beneath the surface. David beamed, oblivious to the tension thick in the air. "This is turning into quite the reunion. Jack, you're practically a celebrity here." Jack swallowed hard, forcing a laugh. "Yeah, I guess you could say that." But as the laughter continued to ripple around him, it felt more like a mockery of the reality he was grappling with. The conversation shifted between David and Tom, a steady stream of banter that Jack could barely contribute to. His thoughts were racing, he was still reeling from Sarah's earlier comment. They really needed to talk. The urge to pull her aside grew stronger, but with Tom's booming voice filling the space, it felt impossible. "Hey, Jack!" Tom suddenly called out, capturing everyone's attention. "You know I've always wanted to have a weekend getaway with you." What do you think about packing up the boys and heading to the cabin for some fishing next weekend? The suggestion hung in the air, a mix of excitement and dread. Jack felt a wave of confusion swelling inside him. A weekend getaway? It sounded appealing, but was it all just a distraction from facing his reality? More importantly, would Sarah agree? Jack turned to her, searching for an answer. Her expression was unreadable, her brow slightly furrowed, but Jack could sense the weight of her thoughts. Fishing sounds great, Jack replied, forcing enthusiasm into his voice, though his heart wasn't in it. They were standing on the edge of a cliff, and yet the stability was being stripped away, a romance teetering between the past and present. Great! Clara and I can drive up early to set everything up, David suggested eagerly, almost too eager. Yeah, that's perfect, Jack stammered, but inside, a sense of panic ballooned. What if this was their chance to reconnect, to face the flood of emotions that had been building? With every laugh around him, Jack's resolve crumbled a little more. He needed to make his move, not just for himself, but for Sarah. Guys, he finally interrupted, raising his voice slightly, wanting to break through the noise. Can Sarah and I have a moment? The group fell silent, everyone's attention turning to them. Jack felt the weight of their gazes, the unspoken questions hanging thick in the air. Please, Sarah said softly, taking a couple of steps away with Jack. But just as they began to drift toward a corner, Jack heard another voice. Jack, wait. It was Clara. As they hesitated, Jack felt the walls closing in, the moment slipping through their fingers. What would Clara reveal? What have they all been missing in their pursuit of laughter and distraction? The room felt heavy, as if it held secrets that had yet to be uncovered. Jack took a deep breath, knowing they were about to step into deeper waters than anyone had anticipated. As the weight of anticipation hung heavily over them, Jack felt the ground beneath him shift. It was like stepping into quicksand. Each moment felt like it could either free him or pull him under. Sarah stood beside him, her eyes searching his, pleading for clarity amid the chaos. Jack. Sarah stammered as Clara approached, her earlier lightness giving way to something more serious. What is going on? Clara asked, her voice bright but her gaze probing. Jack exchanged glances with Sarah, and for a moment, the world outside faded. It was just the two of them connected by years of unresolved feelings. But then, Clara's presence reminded him that this was not just about them anymore. It was about the boys and the family they were trying to reclaim. Taking a deep breath, Jack moved closer to Sarah, blocking out the growing chatter around them. We both know we need to talk about what's next, he said, his voice steady but low, filled with the urgency of someone on the brink of rediscovery. Then let us talk. Sarah took a deep breath, and Jack could see the fire of determination flaring up in her eyes. We can't keep pretending everything is fine. Right, he nodded, feeling the familiar mix of fear and hope surge through him. But first, I need you to know how truly sorry I am for everything that happened. I let ambition cloud my judgment and abandoned you. But I want to be better, for you and for the boys. Her brow furrowed, and Jack could practically see the internal battle she was having, the fears, the past, and the uncertain future colliding. Jack, it's not just about you being sorry. It's about trust and stability for the boys. They need a father they can count on. I get that, he insisted, his voice rising slightly, but he quickly hushed it, aware that the boys were near, listening intently. I want that too. I'll show you. I promise. I'll be here, truly here. I can't change the past, but I can prove that I'm committed to being in their lives. Proving it is different from saying it, Sarah replied, her tone firm yet softened by a hint of vulnerability. Every word stretched between them like an invisible thread, binding them closer yet raising the stakes so much higher. Then let me take them to the cabin this weekend like Tom suggested. Or I can help with whatever you need. Just then, the boys burst in, charging past them with animalistic enthusiasm, their laughter ringing sharp and sweet. Are we having fun, Mom and Jack? One of them called, smiling broadly, his innocence weaving through the heaviness of the conversation. Absolutely. Jack smiled back, letting the warmth of their joy pull him briefly from the heavy moment. You all ready to build the biggest fort ever? He added, confidence building inside him. A castle will take a lot of strength. Yes. And it needs a drawbridge. Another boy shouted, his eyes sparkling with the anticipation of adventure. Right. A drawbridge. Jack's heart swelled, the magic of these moments revitalizing his spirit. He turned back to Sarah, hopeful. What do you say? A weekend getaway, a chance to bond, no distractions. Sarah's gaze softened, but there remained a hidden flicker of doubt. It's a step, she murmured softly, her words laced with the complexity of their shared history. But it can't just be about a weekend. You have to be in this for the long haul. Absolutely, I will. His sincerity washed over them, a wave of shared possibility. With her gaze steadying on his, Jack felt the tides turn, their connection igniting once more like a spark kindling into flame. Then let us take this first step, she finally said, a hesitant smile creeping on her face. Let us see what you can do, Jack. Remember, actions speak louder than words. In that moment, the weight began to lift, the shadows between them slowly started to fade. Before they could delve deeper into their conversation, Clara approached them eagerly. Hey, what's the plan, you two? She looked genuinely excited, her innocence adding an air of lightness. Just figuring out how we're going to win the boys' hearts, Jack replied with a smile, his heart now swelling with newfound hope. He could feel the lightness around them, like the sun breaking through clouds. Good luck getting them to do anything, they're quite the handful. Clara laughed, and in that laugh, Jack could feel the warmth of acceptance returning. Watch me take on the challenge. Jack said, his voice full of optimism as he turned back to the boys, who were bouncing around, excited about their fort. As they rejoined the adventure, laughter filled the air, weaving through the remnants of tension, stitching back together a family once fractured. Jack embraced the laughter, the chaos, his heart expanding like a balloon, ready to hold all the love he had kept locked away. The fort emerged, imperfect and beautiful, reflecting their journey. It stood as a testament of determination, a place where laughter and love had room to grow. In the middle of that fleeting, joyful moment, they had found a sense of home again, a fortress built not just with blankets but with shared dreams, renewed trust, and the spark of possibility. As the final rays of twilight dimmed and stars crept into the night sky, embracing their chaotic family, Jack felt something he hadn't felt in years, a sense of belonging, a flicker of faith in the future. Maybe, just maybe, they could rebuild what had been broken, together, and as they laid back against the cushions, the sounds of children's laughter enveloping them like a warm hug, Jack turned to Sarah, her eyes reflecting the same glimmer of hope. Together? He whispered, a question mixed with hope and determination. Together, she replied softly, the warmth of renewed dreams binding them in that moment. In that fragile laughter, they felt the air thrum with new beginnings, their hearts woven together through the simple joys of being present, finally ready to embrace whatever came next. Now, this is your moment. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories, leave a like now to feed the algorithm, comment your reactions and feelings about the ending. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions. Don't wait not even one more second to share.